Shelby, and I'm an alcoholic. Before we start, we ask that everyone please mute their microphones to limit background noise and distractions. Let's have a moment of silence for the alcoholic who still suffers, followed by the set-aside prayer. God, please help me set aside everything I think I know about myself, the 12 steps, the big book, the meetings, my disease, and you, God, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please let me see the truth. And John, would you like to read the AA Baltimore prologue?
I'm John, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, John.
The Baltimore Prologue, 1946. Alcoholics Anonymous is a group of people for whom alcohol has become a major problem, and who have banded together in a sincere effort to help themselves and other problem drinkers recover their health and maintain sobriety. Definitions of alcoholics are many and varied. For brevity, we think of an alcoholic as one whose life has become unmanageable to any degree due to the use of alcohol. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the alcoholic is suffering from a disease for which no cure has yet been found. We profess no curative powers, but have formulated a plan to arrest alcoholism. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees in AA. Activities are supported by the voluntary contributions of the members. Alcoholics Anonymous does not perform miracles, believing that such power rests only in God. We adhere to no particular creed or religion. We do believe, however, that an appeal for help to one's own interpretation of a higher power or God is indispensable to a satisfactory adjustment to life's problems. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a prohibition or temperance movement in any sense of the word. Neither have we any criticism of the controlled drinker. We are concerned only with the alcoholic. From the vast experience of our many members, we have learned that successful membership demands total abstinence. Attempts at controlled drinking inevitably fail. We attempt to follow a program of recovery which has for its chief objectives sobriety for ourselves, help for other alcoholics that desire it, amends for past wrongs, humility, honesty, tolerance, and spiritual growth. We welcome and appreciate the cooperation of the medical profession, the clergy, and the public in general.
All right. Thank you, John. So this is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're glad you're all here. All right. And we'll now move on to the speaker portion of our meeting. Let's welcome Paige from North Carolina.
Shelby, was that an indication that I can start?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Let me start with just saying that I'm Paige Wood, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety birthday is March the 31st, 1989. And I'm a member of the Came to Believe group that's located in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. We meet in the church. We've been meeting there continuously for the last 22 years, I guess. So in any case, before that, I was a member of another group that met continuously for over 10 years in Wilson, North Carolina. My home group is one of two things that's very important to my sobriety, one being my sponsorship, and the other being a home group. Now, I didn't know that you could be in a member of AA and not have those. I didn't know you could. I didn't even know it was an option to not to have a sponsor or a home group. I've just always had one, and I don't know how I would. I don't think I'd be very successful without both of those items and being a part of my life. In any case, we're a big book study group. We study the textbook Alcoholics Anonymous on every Tuesday of the month, the first 3 Tuesdays of the month. And the 4th Tuesday of the month, we study the traditions out of the 12 and 12 book, one a month. And if there's a 5th Tuesday, and there is every now and then, we study AA history, believing that we need to know as much about illness as we can so that we can help others. And so we study AA history using AA conference-approved literature. On Friday nights, we meet twice a week, and on Friday nights, we're going to meet tonight. We are a study group, and the chairperson picks a topic, and then he asks the membership to share on that topic. And the last Friday of every month, which will be tonight, we have our only open speaker meeting, where we invite one member to come and share their experience, strength, and hope, much as what I'm trying to do this morning. I want to thank Shelby for asking me. We know each other. We met a few years ago. We've been out of contact for a while because she's been in Japan for a year and a half, and we welcome her back, and we hope to see her personally soon. Anyway, she extended this invitation to speak this morning, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be sober and to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and so that I could do this. So I'll just share my story as best I can, and be mindful of the time. Now, I'll need some help with that. I've been accused of giving a good 10-minute talk. It just takes an hour to do it. So again, keep the clock on me and just let me know, when to shut it down. I'll be happy to do that. I'm going to begin with just letting you know that I am blessed to be continuously sober since March the 31st, 1989. And I understand a lot of people don't do it that way. And I tend to think from my own experience and through my line of sponsorship that might be the easiest way to do that. For me to get to AA and to get sober was it was just a tremendous job, and to have to do that again, I don't know if I could do that. I've been told that I've always got another drunk inside of me, but I don't know that I got another recovery. So I'm going to hold on to my recovery just as best I can through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And my prayer would be that you would also. So in any case, I started drinking at the age of 13, and I'm one of those men or boys that had no reason to drink. I never saw anything nice about drinking booze. My father was a terrible alcoholic, and we didn't have a television or anything like that. We didn't watch the Clydesdales prancing down the street and pulling the Budweiser horse. We didn't see nice people sitting back and having a wine with a meal or anything. What we saw was my father, when he would come home, terribly drunk, very abusive, would beat every member of the family, starting with my mother and work his way through my sisters. I got 3 sisters and 1 brother, and myself. And then he would wreck the home and tear up things, and would eventually pass out. And my mom would she would get up and fix herself, depending on how bad she had been beating, and then she would go around to the children, my sisters and my brother and myself, and try to patch us up no matter what harm had come to us. She would try to clean the house up a little bit of what he'd broken, and then she would drag him off to bed. And that was my view of drinking up to age 13. They say that we hear in AA that alcohol is cunning, baffling, and powerful, and then certainly it is. It is if you're trying to overcome it on your own, which we know that we can't do. That we need a relationship with others who have recovered, and we need a relationship with God. But on your own, it is very powerful to overcome. And but for me, I was tricked into drinking, thinking that for me it would be different, that my drinking would be different. I wouldn't be like my father. And at the age of 13, I took my first drink. I I was with a camping trip out in the backyard with 3 other boys. We're just kids. Somehow or another, we had got enough money to get an older person to buy 1 6-pack and 1 pack of cigarettes, and that was my journey start right there. And as it began to unfold that night, I drank most of the beer, smoked most of the cigarettes, and I had my first blackout, and I got in my first major trouble that night. I ended up being told that I shot out all the windows of a National Guard Army with a BB gun, and I was guilty of that by just them saying I did. I had no remembrance of that. I don't remember shooting the BB gun that night. I know we had it because I almost never went anywhere without a baseball bat or a BB gun. So that was the beginning of my drinking. But let me tell you what was the most important part of that night and that next morning was, no matter what the consequence was from that night, I knew that I would do that again. I knew that if it was on a Thursday night, camping out in eastern North Carolina in the backyard with 3 other guys, how wonderful that 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer made me feel, that I became unafraid of anything. And before that, I was afraid of everything. Now, I didn't know that. In fact, if you would have asked me, I would tell you that I'm not afraid of anything. I don't have a fear of anything. I'd be talking about the fear of dark, the fear of snakes, the fear of anything. But what I come to find out, and I didn't find that out until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, that what I was afraid of was who I was and what I was, and I was afraid of you. I was afraid of people, and I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be somebody different. I wanted to be in another family. Was never happy with any of those circumstances that was part of my life until I started drinking. And you know, somewhere in our literature it talks about that drinking for us, we lose power. And in my case, I gained power. Just the very thought of taking a drink would make me feel stronger, better, smarter, happier. Everything about my life would get better, especially if I started to drink, and especially if I had that drink. So at age 13, I started drinking, and my life for the next 30 years was controlled by having accessibility to being able to drink. And what is so crazy about that is I ended up in the Navy, and I ended up on nuclear submarines, and you can't hardly get there with my background. And number one, I'm a full-fledged alcoholic, and I managed to drink on a nuclear submarine. That's it. They would say, the Navy would say that's impossible. It can't happen. We don't have anybody on nuclear submarines that would be behaving that way and so forth. Well, they did, and I was able to do that, and but that's not a crowning achievement. Yeah, I think if there's any crowning achievement in my life is that somehow or another life forced me to come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's exactly what happened. I was forced to come. I was never a volunteer to come to Alcoholics Anonymous. Anyway, I drank, and I had all the experiences that most of us have. I had good times and I had bad times. In the beginning, alcohol was my very, very best friend, and I could do nothing without it, and I could do everything with it. I felt like alcohol helped me with life in every circumstance. It made me smarter. I felt better looking. I felt stronger. I got along with people better. And if it had continued to do that, you'd be listening to a different man this morning. But it didn't continue to do that. My alcoholism was progressive. We learned in AA that 3 things happen. That it always gets worse. It continues to dominate our life, and to where we're going to end up either uh, locked up for mental reasons, or we're going to be locked up for physical reasons, or we're going to be locked up in a prison for the actions that we take while we're drinking. And in my case, all of that was being manifested. It was slowly building and coming to fruition. So I continued to drink, and I continued to drink till I lost some of the most valuable things in a man's life. I lost, number one, my self-respect. I lost any of the morality and the morals that my mother had tried to teach me, and that the Navy had taught me, and that I knew from just study. I'm a very avid reader. I've been a reader all my life, and so forth. So I'm familiar with all the things that it takes to live a good life, except for how to do it. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous teaches, is how it works. That's there's nothing in the textbook that's there by accident. The very idea that we're introduced to a solution right in the very beginning of the book. We're introduced to steps to take to make it come about. We're told that thinking has got nothing to do with it and overcoming alcoholism. You can think about it all day long and stay just as drunk as you want to. It's our actions. And I learned the difference between my will and my life, and that my actions is what is going to carry the day. So in any case, I drank right on till I was forced to come. I had a progressive set of circumstances that chased me down. I was a blackout drinker from the very beginning right to the very end, and it didn't always happen. I could never predict when it was going to happen or how long it was going to last. Sometimes it would last a few minutes, sometimes all night long, sometimes 2 and 3 days, that I would come to and not know where I had been, what I had done, and how I got to where I was, or who was with me, or anything about the circumstances. That was the main thing that happened, that my employers, who dearly loved me, that allowed me to be successful in a profession, and to have most of what I had. They loved me, but they had a problem with me because they couldn't depend on me. They didn't know in what condition or when or how I would show up. I had a position that allowed me to travel mostly in the eastern seaboard states, as far west as Tennessee, but up and down the eastern seaboard, and I had the use of a company plane. Now the problem with all that is, if you're a blackout drinker and that you drink every day from the moment you come to the moment you pass out, that's a dangerous combination. And I went off on a trip, and I didn't know if I was going, or if I didn't know if I was coming back, and it took a while to figure that out, or to make that happen, that was the end for my employers. They said, Paige, we love you, but if you don't do something about your drinking, we're going to lock you up. You're either going to a federal prison for what you just did, or you're going to get some help. And I said, in my arrogance and in my ignorance, I said, well, how long are you going to give me to think about that? And they looked at me like I had lost my complete mind. I'm going to either go to a federal prison for hijacking a plane, or I'm going to get help and everything be okay. And I'm asking for how long, some time to think about that. Well, they did. They knew they were dealing with an idiot, I guess, and they gave me 3 days to decide what to do, and I took all 3 days. I woke up on a Friday morning in this same home that I'm living in now. I woke up and came to, and I I fell to the floor of my bedroom, and it was just like I was an octopus. I had no muscles. I had no skeleton system. I just fell to the floor and couldn't get up. I had no power, and I started crying. Now, what's so unusual about crying? People cry all the time. It's one of their national emotions. But I hadn't cried since I was a boy, a young boy, watching my father beat my mother, beat my sisters, beat my brother, and then beat me. My father would say something as crazy as this. He would say, "Son, if you want something to cry about, I'll give you something to cry about." And the beating would continue, and it would get worse. So I learned to hold back that emotion, and what replaced that emotion was hate. I began to hate uncontrollably. I hated him. I hated what he was doing. And I didn't know I hated booze. You wouldn't think I hated booze, but because of the way I turned to it. I became as bad as my father mentally, not physically, but as bad as he because of drinking alcohol. So in any case, I fell to the floor of that bedroom that I was living in, my home, and couldn't get off the floor and was crying. And I'm not virtuous to any kind of pain. Everything that can happen to a man has happened to me. I served a couple of years in Vietnam. I've seen things that you don't even want to dream about. And I've done things you don't even want to think about. And I spent time on nuclear submarines prepared to do the most ultimate, worst thing in the whole wide world on command, and was willing to be there. I was a volunteer to be on that submarine. That's what you have to be. They don't send you to there. You have to volunteer and qualify for that. The Lord knows they didn't know what they had with me on board, drinking and carrying on the way I did. But in any case, I started crying, and I couldn't quit crying. And I said the first real prayer that I think I'd ever said, well, not think, I know. The first real prayer I ever said, and the most important prayer I've ever said in my life, from that day to this day right now, 32 years later, I said 3 words: God, help me. God, help me. I didn't ask God to help me off the floor. I didn't ask God to help me keep my job. I didn't ask God to keep me out of that federal prison they're talking about sending me to. I didn't ask God for anything. I was in no position to negotiate. I didn't even know you could. I just said, God help me. I didn't know that I was broken. I didn't know that what we talk about in AA, that you got to surrender. I didn't know I was surrendering to anything. I didn't know how to give up. I'd been taught that a man never gives up. I'd been taught that a man can do anything. I've been taught that a man doesn't cry. And so I violated all of those crazy things that I had believed. I understand today that to have the new life that we have in AA, you got to quit the old life. You got to be open-minded enough to see something else and believe something else, to be reborn. And so I just said, God, help me. Now let me tell you the most amazing thing about that morning, the most amazing thing about my life today is, I believe everybody that's on this Zoom call this morning, that's a member of AA, that's listening in right now, I believe that you've got some kind of relationship with God. And but if 32 years ago you were dependent on him to be watchful and to be helpful, he was in my bedroom lifting me up and getting me prepared to be sent to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I believe that. I'm not like Bill Wilson. I didn't see any smoke. I didn't talk to anybody about that. I just got up off the floor and became willing. Now, you know, somewhere in our literature it talks about that there's 3 things we got to be. We got to be honest, we got to be open-minded, and we got to be willing. Well, I didn't get all of that. God gave me just a willing spirit. That's all he gave me that morning, and sent me off to Alcoholics Anonymous. He didn't make me honest. He didn't make me open-minded. I become more honest, or try to be honest, through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I try to be more open-minded through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. But he has given me that spirit of being willing, and I think that being willing has saved my life, and has removed me from being a problem drinker. That I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous in good standing, continuously sober since the time I came. And but that was a process. Every bit of that was a process. He first sent me to a treatment center. I went there for 40-some days, and I hated it at first. They took away they took away my car keys. They took away my shaving razor. They took away they took away all my privileges. I'm locked up in this treatment center with what I thought was a bunch of idiots and a bunch of crazy people, and they'd come to find out that they're just like me. I'm just like them, and I understand that we're people who would not normally mix, but I think we're the greatest bunch of people in the whole wide world, members of Alcoholics Anonymous. What a unique organization that exists only to help others. We're taught in the literature that we got to clean house, trust God, and help others. And that's not always easy. It took me about 5 years of being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous to clean house and to trust God. And I had been trying to help others somewhat effectively, but mostly I'm just like Bill Wilson. I was sober and nobody else was, type thing. That's how he was for a few months. But after about 5 years of being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I finally, after many attempts to get honest in a 4th step and a 5th step, I was able to break that barrier and to just vomit up everything to one person, put it in writing, and to admit it to God and to another person and to myself. And my life completely changed that day. I've been a part of, and still a part of, that we try to carry that message that is taught to us in Alcoholics Anonymous. My favorite story in the textbook is the one about where Dr. Bob, on his afternoon off, tries to help one guy go through the steps. And it was just the 6-step program back then. It wasn't even a program. We didn't even have a name back then. We didn't have a textbook. We just had the idea that if we would confess our faults and try to make amends and look at our what we now call the 6th and 7th step, if we look at our character defects and be willing to practice the opposite, that things would happen, and they have in my life. And so that happened to me in year 5 of my sobriety, that I quit lying to myself and I quit lying to my sponsor, and I laid it all out. And since then, in a slowly, I wish it had been faster, in a slow manner, in a slow thing, my life began to change, began to improve. I think in my life, I hope I never forget this. I hope I never not feel this way. I think I'm the most overpaid man in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I mean that in every area of my life. I mean emotionally. I have my ups and my downs. I go up, I go down, sometimes in the same day, but I don't drink about that. I pray about that. I get help for my relationship with God with that. Spiritually is the most rich part of my life. Before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't like God. I knew that I'm not one of those people that was an agnostic or an atheist. I don't think I could have spelled the words back then. I always believed that there was a God. I just had no use for him. In that he allowed me to be born with the problems that I had. He allowed me to be in that family with that terribly abusive father who was an alcoholic. I just didn't like him. And I believed every success in my life, everything that happened in my life that was good, was because of I'm a self-made man. I work hard, I study hard, and it was because of my efforts. And I know today that none of that is true. I know today that I'm who I am and where I am, and because of that relationship with God that I have today, that He had with me even before I had it with Him. And so I value that more than anything in life today, is that relationship. So I'm overpaid spiritually, emotionally. I'm overpaid physically. I came to AA 32 years ago bleeding from both ends. I'd go to the bathroom and I wouldn't know what I was going to do. I knew it was going to be messy though. After getting sober, and the textbook talks about that if we're get sober spiritually, everything else will get fixed. Jobs or no jobs, wife or no wife. And that's what happened to me. I began to run marathons in my early sobriety. Ended up running about 54 of them. And I no longer do that, but I'm healthy because of that training and that discipline and that AA gave me in life. So I'm overpaid physically, and I'm overpaid financially, and that's what most people think about, is that when you talk about being overpaid. Well, I'm overpaid financially also. I wouldn't have anything in life today of value without having my sobriety and my relationship with God and Alcoholics Anonymous. So Shelby, I don't know how close I'm getting on the time, and I don't want to run over that, but I do want to wrap up on something, if I can. Is I'm a student of AA literature. It's been an important part of my sobriety. I told you about my home group. I told you about my sponsorship. I've never been without one. I've had one to drink on me. I've had one to die on me. I've been sponsored most of my life by the same man. He's even fired me one time, and because I wouldn't behave and wouldn't listen to him, and he sent me off to another sponsor. But I'm now back with that original sponsor, and we got a wonderful relationship. Let me tell you, and I'm going to close up on this. This is another part of AA literature, and I think that's all that we use. And it's a pamphlet. I'm going to get over here to what I want to share to you. I'm going to close with this. This coming Sunday in the churches of many of us, there will be read that portion of the Gospel of Matthew which recounts the time when John the Baptist was languishing in the prison of Herod. And hearing of the works of his cousin Jesus, he sent 2 of his disciples to say to him, "Art thou he who is to come, or shall we look for another?" And Christ did as he so often did. He did not answer them directly, but wanted John to decide for himself. And so he said to the disciples, "Go and report to John what you have heard and what you have seen. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, and the dead rise. The poor have the gospel preached to them." And by that, the poor not only means the poor in the material sense, but in the spiritual sense. And so that the good word, the gospel, means the good news. So here's what I have found. I can now tell you only what I have heard and seen in Alcoholics Anonymous. It seems the blind do see, the deaf hear, the lame do walk, the lepers are clean, and the dead rise. And over again, in the middle of the longest day and the darkest of nights, the poor in spirit hear the good news told to them. God grant that it may always be so. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Shelby.
So glad you came. All right, so the floor is open until pretty much the end of the hour, if anyone would like to share.
My name is John. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, John.
Hey, you guys. Paige, first of all, thank you for your share. Thank you for your service. I was thoroughly entertained by that whole thing and moved at various points. I'm still not much of a crier, but when I first got sober, I went to a treatment center as well, and suddenly one of the days, I think it had dawned on me that the nightmare was maybe over, and I broke down with as if a dam had burst, and just years of emotion was just pouring out of me uncontrollably. And it was amazing, I'm so thankful for AA. Everything that I have now is because of AA. And I was locked up in a mental institution for a bit, and I saw where this was taking me, and I couldn't do a damn thing about it. And AA saved my life. I have emotional ups and downs. This week has been like a roller coaster, and that's how it's gone. And I don't drink over it. The obsession's gone for me, but it's more about emotional sobriety at this point, and being honest, open-minded, and willing, and just continuing on that. What can I say, Not a lot, apparently. I'm gonna pass, and thanks again for your share.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. I'm Taka.
Hi, Taka.
Good morning.
I'm sorry to write. I've just finished my English lesson today. So it was very difficult for me. I'm not good at speaking English well. But I usually join in English meeting. This meeting is my home meeting like this. So I really enjoyed this meeting. So I've just 4 years of sober. I'm very appreciated AA because 4 years ago my life was sort of not good, too bad. I drank every night after work at 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. Too much drink. I could not care my family. And it's difficult to work every day, every time. But I had to care my family. So at that time, I think I would quit drink, but it was very difficult for me. But I appreciated a meeting. It's easy to quit drink because all people in a meeting give me a lot of courage to me and change my mind. It's a very, very miracle, I think. And now I keep my Sabbath every day. So, John, no, 4 years ago, I could not speak in English very, very well. So, I can imagine now I'm speaking English now. So, they changed my life. I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very grateful. Tonight, I'm very happy to join and meet you. I'd like to say more clearly, smoothly my emotion, feeling. It's easy to speak in English, Japanese, but okay. I tried more studying English. Right. Today, very much thank you, Paige. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, John. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Taka.
Hi, I'm Tadashi. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for to be here, and thank you for sharing a page. So, my English skill is very poor. So, but I would like to share my alcoholism experience. Every morning I do pray and meditation, and I'm happy to start today with calm down. And so my drinking day, every night I was blackout drinking. Every morning I always had the headache, and I sometimes stifled alcohol. And at that time, I had always negative thinking, anger, resentment, and dishonest. So, drinking was the center of my life. Alcohol binded me and pushed out the rock bottom. My life was getting worse and worse, and I wanted to die, but I couldn't die. I was suffering from my alcoholism. When I came to AA, I had many problems: financial problem, job problem, and family problem. But I wanted to start from there. So my sponsor teach me the 12 this program, A program, and then sponsor told me, Tadashi-san had so much pride and so much fear. You needed to leave these of your character of defect. Did you understand? Do you understand my English? Thank you. So I needed to try to this A program. Nowadays, my life situation is getting better. It is very slowly. So nowadays, I believe my God, and I rely on my higher power. If I problem, I ask my sponsor and my friend. So now I'm happy. Thank you, let me share. Thank you.
Thank you, Tadashi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tadashi.
My name's Shelby, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Shelby.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. I can say, I think pretty much every time I've come to this meeting, I've felt like, not like I was unhappy at the beginning, but I feel like happier now than I did. I guess I was also still kind of waking up too. So, yeah, thank you again, Paige, for sharing. I was like, I don't know. The first time I heard your story, I was really blown away, and I identified a lot with like many things that you said. And today I was just thinking about just like the inner transformation. Like you didn't necessarily, well, you did talk about that, but I think it just shows in your appearance and your demeanor. And I also looked up like what it means to be poor in spirit. And I think you're just like, I don't know, not like it's all about you, but I really appreciate people that are examples to me and to other people of just like having a consistent practice, and a reliance and a faith in God or a higher power. Yeah, I was thinking about that and thinking about how like I could be doing more in my life with connecting to that power. So I'm in a weird place right now where I'm not unhappy. There's nothing wrong. I am having some health issues, but I'm just like not doing what I used to do, which is like being stuck in fear about it and like not going to the doctor and just telling myself that I'm screwed. So I'm like being really diligent about trying to figure out a diet that works and like going to different specialists and stuff like that and taking care of myself. And I heard that in your story as well. And I think that's part of what I love about the North Carolina group is I find a lot of the people that I know down there just have this concept of like an unconditionally loving, limitless God that like really wants us to enjoy and love our lives. And I don't know where I got the message, but at some point I used to believe that God was like, thought it was selfish for me to like go enjoy my life, like to go travel to different countries and learn different languages. And I just met some of the best people in your group, and you guys have done all of those things, and you do it maintaining a connection to your higher power and like maintaining your program, you know, and yeah, you guys just like light up. I don't know. Yes, and I definitely have to come see you in person because I'll be in Virginia, so that's like a quick skip down there. All right, that's all the time we have for the meeting. Does anyone have, I guess everybody shared. I don't know if anyone has a burning desire. Okay, so we will close with the responsibility statement, and let's give a round of applause to our wonderful speaker.
Thank you so much, Shelby, and thank all of y'all for being here this morning, sharing your sobriety with me. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Sorry, I'm so slow with this stuff. Okay. Responsibility statement, and feel free to unmute. I am responsible. Anyone.
Anywhere.
Health.
Reaches out.
I want the hand of AA always there.
For
For that.
I am responsible.